Hello, welcome to the last session of this series of working emotions. Previously, I didn't manage to live stream this session on YouTube. We have some connection problem, so I have decided to record this session and upload it so that we will not miss this conclusion to this whole series of teachings. So let me start by reviewing what we have covered over the past weeks related to this topic of working with our emotions. And I have mainly focused on two different aspects, two different, we can say, types of meditation that we can cultivate and develop as a way to help us to relate to our emotions, to our different feelings and emotional responses to the different situations we find ourselves in. So first of all is the mindfulness. I have presented mindfulness in relation to this particular protocol that was called RAIN, R-A-I-N. And I find personally this particular way of approaching and cultivating mindfulness very helpful, very practical, very useful. So RAIN stands for R, is for recognize. That is for us to develop the awareness, or to recognize what is actually happening within ourselves or outside of ourselves, what is happening in this very moment. So recognition is the one aspect of mindfulness. A stands for acknowledgement, which is how I like to explain it. I like to think of it as acknowledging what is here as the reality of this moment. For me, the word acknowledgement is neutral and convey how I understand this aspect of mindfulness. With mindfulness, I become aware of what is happening in my body, in my mind. I'm aware of the kind of feelings that have been triggered. And acknowledgement just means that I am open and receptive and able to see what is actually happening and acknowledge that as the reality, my reality of this moment. So if I'm angry, I can acknowledge to myself, yes, I'm angry. If I notice fear arising, then I can acknowledge to myself, oh, I'm afraid. No, this is fear. Fear is the feeling of this moment. So for me, other people may use the word acceptance. Others may use the word to allow. So there are different ways to understand this second aspect of mindfulness. So feel free to experiment with the different words and the different connotations and come to your own understanding of it. So recognize, acknowledge. I stands for to investigate, to inquire. So I like the word inquire because for me, it means that it's almost like I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious and concerned about what is unfolding within myself in this moment, and therefore I want to inquire. I want to pay closer attention to what is happening. So that is how I understand this aspect of mindfulness, to inquire. It's almost like sometimes I use the analogy of listening. Someone is saying something to me and maybe I wasn't really paying attention, and then suddenly I caught a few words, or I caught the tone of voice of the person. It becomes something that maybe it intrigued me, or it raised certain concerns. Suddenly the priority of listening within myself has increased. And therefore what I'll naturally do is to stop doing whatever it is I'm doing. Try to quiet down instead of busy thinking about this and that, planning what I'm going to say and so on and so forth. I try to quiet down, try to stop all these other activities so that I can give as much as possible my full attention to what this person is trying to tell me. So listening. And that for me is a good metaphor of this step of inquiring, is to give as much as possible my undivided attention to what is unfolding in this moment within myself or outside of myself, depending on what I'm paying attention to, and try to listen, try to be more aware, not just superficially, but also try to catch the different details, try to listen or be aware to what is obvious as well as what is less obvious, more subtle, more hidden. And in so doing, by paying close attention, I come to know more things, become aware of more things. I come to know it better. So that's how I understand this step of inquiry, is to after having recognized what is unfolding, what is happening, and acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it is here, it is what is happening. I want to find out a little bit more about it, so I give it more of my attention. I pay attention to it. I want to get to know it better, so to speak. And having done that, the fourth step, the fourth aspect of it, of mindfulness, is a time for me to make a decision, a choice, so to speak. Not that we necessarily do it consciously. It's whether this is something I want to continue to devote the energy of my attention to, or maybe not. Maybe it is something unskillful, unhelpful, and that for me to continue to dwell on it may not be such a positive thing. So I might decide to divert my attention elsewhere, to nurture something else. So here is the point of decision or choice, where I decide, or sometimes it's not, as I said, it's not necessarily conscious. Sometimes the mind decides who or what we want to give the attention, our energy or attention towards, to feed, to sustain, to enhance, to support. What habits of mine, what sort of response I want to bring forth. So this is the fourth step of nurturing. So to recognize, to acknowledge, to inquire, and to nurture. Right. So this is a good way of understanding the different functions of mindfulness. Mindfulness as a term is, of course, very popular these days, but it's really hard to pin down exactly what it may mean, or at least what it means personally to each one of us in a practical sense. So I find this particular protocol, this particular acronym, RAIN, really helpful. It's especially helpful in applying mindfulness to our emotions, especially times when we experience strong emotions, difficult emotions. We might find that if we can remember one or more of these steps or aspects, we can apply that to our emotional responses. And I think it really helps us to work with our emotions, get to know our emotions better. So as I said, I'm sort of reviewing what I have touched on previously. So as we train ourselves in our regular meditation practice to nurture mindfulness, we train ourselves to become familiar with these four different aspects of mindfulness. Recognize is pretty easy. We learn to recognize what is happening. We might even find it helpful to give it a label, so we can recognize thinking as thinking. We can recognize listening as listening. We can recognize sensing bodily sensation as sensing. We can recognize different feelings as feelings. We can recognize, I'm feeling sad today for some reason. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling excited, nervous. I'm feeling panicky. I'm feeling down, depressed. I'm feeling irritated or angry, hateful. So recognition comes first. With time, with practice, we become better at pinpointing and recognizing all these different experiences arising within ourselves. And then acknowledgement is also an important step. That is to simply, instead of engaging in a very knee-jerk kind of reflex action of pushing away certain experiences or immediately trying to cling on to others, usually we cling on to what we regard as pleasant, and we tend to immediately reject or push away or deny what we experience as unpleasant. So acknowledgement is quite different from these two kind of reactions of attachment, of clinging, and of rejection and aversion. Acknowledgement is simply to, upon recognition what is happening here, we simply sort of be more open and more receptive in acknowledging that, oh, so this is what is happening to me in this moment, or this what is arising within me in this moment. So I'm creating a kind of space, space enough for it to just be, for no other reason other than the fact that, well, this is what is happening. This is the reality of the moment. So I'm simply acknowledging what is real, what is true. I may not like it, or I might like it a lot. Either way, regardless of my own likes and dislikes, I'm simply doing a very simple thing of acknowledging the present moment reality. It sounds almost paradoxical, or why do we need to even spend time or even try to acknowledge? Because quite often this is the step that we trip over. This is the step where instead of simply acknowledging what is happening as true, we immediately try to jump over it. We try to either grasp onto it or increase it, change it, or we are rejecting it. We feel instant aversion towards it. We try to push it away, try to bury it, try to deny it. So all these reactions that are often automatically triggered complicates the picture, almost sort of muddy the picture to the extent that we can't see clearly what is actually happening. We have been swarmed over by our reactivities. And so we ended up not really seeing reality as it is, but instead we are reacting to our own reactions to reality. So we are sort of like one or more step removed away from the reality. Whereas if we are able to just acknowledge the reality, things are often much simpler, much more straightforward. We just have to deal with what is happening here. For good or for bad, we just have to deal with it. Instead, we have, because we react so habitually, we end up having to deal with the reactions to the reactions to the reactions of our reactions, and so on and so forth, which greatly complicates the picture. And worst of all, the reality of the moment is completely overwhelmed or buried, become obscured from our awareness. Right? So if we are able to return it to its great simplicity of whatever it is that is here, then often we are actually quite capable of dealing with it. All right? So there's acknowledgement. And inquire is also an important step, because we may not be able to see things as clearly as we like to be. We may not be able to catch some of the details, in the heat of the moment, in the rush of all those emotions and all the thoughts and memories and the projections and so on and so forth. A lot of things sort of become unclear to us. So it's important to take the time to find the space, more the inner mental space, to explore a bit, to almost like get to know ourselves again, get to know ourselves better, get to know the different feelings and emotions that might be stirred up by whatever is happening, only then, as we inquire deeper, we investigate, and we come to have a clearer picture of what is really going on. And that really helps us to deal with it. And the last one, of course, is to recognize the power of our attention. Our attention is actually very powerful. It's a source of energy. And whatever we attend to, can actually end up become our reality. If we attend to, we give our attention to dwell on our angry thoughts, we nurture the anger, it's very easy for us to come to see the world with angry eyes. We sort of become, we solidified that appearance. Quite often, a lot of it is conjured up by our thoughts, our imaginations, and yet it becomes so real and so concrete to us. And we may find that sometimes, for some of us, it's really hard to step out of this projected reality, to really see things as they are. So nurturing means we really recognize and honor the power of our attention, and we choose wisely, if possible, as to where we want to give our attention to. What is it that we want to nurture or feed or enhance through the power of our attention, right? So those are the different aspects of mindfulness that I have covered previously. And today, to conclude, I want to touch briefly on not only can mindfulness help us to work with the various obvious aspects of our emotions, get to know our emotional life, get to be more in touch with the different feelings and the different reactions that might be triggered or that have been arising, in response to whatever it is going on in our life. We can also go much deeper with mindfulness, because mindfulness, when we applied it correctly and consistently, leads to the growth of wisdom, deepening understanding of ourselves, of our world. So we can apply the same set of protocol, and it can really help us to gain a deeper understanding of the very nature of our emotions. Not just the emotions themselves, but really understand the nature of emotions. And this could be referring to the fact that, for example, one very common thing we talk about in Buddhism is the impermanent nature of our feelings, our emotions, that although they can arise very strongly and they can really capture our attention and hold our attention for a prolonged period of time, emotions are by nature impermanent, subjected to change, and they do fade and disappear after a while if it's not re-stimulated or reactivated. So I might be very angry at this moment, and I may stay angry for quite a while, but nonetheless, sooner or later, anger subsides. It's pretty hard to sustain an emotional reactions unchanged, constantly unchanged over a long period of time. It's really quite difficult. We might find that it comes and goes in waves. It intensifies, and it subsides, and it come back again. And so that is more likely. So emotions are by nature impermanent, and that can be very helpful. For example, if we feel very down, very depressed, weighed down and by the load, the burden of or the daily challenges or whatever is happening in our life, we can feel very, we can lose hope, and we might come to a point, quite common, to feel that this depression is here to stay forever. It's never going to change, it's never going to be lifted. There's nothing I can do to somehow shift it or alter it. But the truth is, it's not like this. Even when we are depressed, or when we are angry, or when we are upset, or when we are anxious, there are also all sorts of variations, all sorts of changes. The anxiety, the fear can increase and decrease and increase and decrease. Sometimes, occasionally, we get distracted and we forgot about it. Of course, only that it will come back later. So change is always possible. That's, I think, a very positive thing to remember. It's very much in line with the nature of our emotions. The other aspect that we might uncover is that emotions are conditional. They very much depends on conditions, inner, outer conditions. And so this is of course related to its changing impermanent nature. So if some of the conditions underlying our emotional response change, then of course the emotions themselves change and everything else change with it. So it's conditional, means it is dependent on various factors. And by learning about those different factors and even working with some of them, we can bring about a change in how we respond, or if not, a change in whether we persist in responding in that way, how long it's going to last, how strong it's going to arise. All of this also we can work with if we remember that emotions themselves are conditional. They are not intrinsically with us, and they are not always here. They really depends on various different conditions. And so these are some of the, you can call them insights that we can gain when we work with emotions through mindfulness. So today we're going to do a mindfulness meditation. And here I invite you to explore the conditional nature of our different emotional responses. One way to understand, another way of understanding conditional is that this emotion that seems like one whole thing, quite often, especially when it's very strong, difficult emotions, it seems to be like a flood, a flood of strong sensations, emotions, thoughts, but all together, and it seems to have the power to overwhelm us, to drown us. We feel like we are drowning in this surge of energy, of sensations, feelings, thoughts, images, everything just come together in one big package, sort of capable of drowning us in it. But even when it's that strong and that intense, emotions are made up of different components, different parts, and of course, which also are subjected to change. So if we are able to, instead of seeing it as one overwhelming, some people regard some of their emotions or reactions as like monsters, like literally, like one whole entity, living entity that seems to have a power to consume us, destroy us. We try to see it differently, try to see the different components that make up an emotional reactions, and to understand how they interact with one another and with the environment and so on and so forth. It's almost like we are breaking things up a bit to see, to not allow it to fuse together as one single entity, but to see it as what it is. The interactions of many different components, different aspects, different functions, and so on and so forth. So this meditation, I invite you to make an effort to attend to the whole of ourselves, regardless of whether we are having a strong emotional response or not. It's always good to see ourselves as a whole, made up of many different components and factors interacting with one another. So in this meditation, I invite you to do a very simple technique of labeling the different dominant mental activities going on at each moment. And I divide them into two groups. One is thinking, which is quite often arise in our meditation. We find ourselves, regardless of what we are meditating, attention seems to be drawn back to thinking. Could be thinking about the past, could be thinking about the future in the sense of planning, worrying. Thinking can also be involved in fantasy, daydreaming. And some of the thinking are in the form of inner commentary, just going on and on about this and that, maybe involving judgments and evaluations. So these are all the different thinking activities that may arise in meditation. I invite you to recognize it, to acknowledge it, and to even inquire a bit if you are curious. And the way we do that is simply asking you as an instruction to, when you become aware, oh, my attention is involved in thinking, to just apply a very simple label, very lightly, gently, just tell yourself, thinking. That's what my attention is preoccupied with in this moment, thinking. Or this whole blah 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 thing that just happened, that is thinking. Okay, and contrast that with another kind of conscious activity, which I call it sensing. Sensing include listening through your ears. You are aware of sounds. If your eyes are open, you are aware of sight, so that's seeing, which we also include under the word sensing. Or you notice bodily sensations, tensing, relaxing, and so on and so forth. Sensing. Alright, so sensing on one hand and thinking on the other hand. See if we can apply these two labels appropriately at each moment when we notice what is the dominant activity of that moment. Sometimes the two of them may be seems to be happening simultaneously. Then we are thinking and sensing. And why do we do that is trying to heal, bring together the more thinking aspect of ourselves plus the sensing aspects of ourselves. Try to see them not as opposing one another, but as part of the whole of ourselves. The different ways our consciousness, different conscious activities we participate in, that our attention is engaged in. And when we develop this ability, we can apply it when we feel strong emotions. We can really notice at any moment which of this activity is dominant. Quite often, thinking is the dominant activity because it is our thoughts that drive those emotions, that sustain those emotions. Right? When the thoughts subside, we will find that the emotion starts to fade. Because as our attention moves from thinking back to sensing, we are also moving from whatever that thoughts are. Quite often could be about the past, some past incident, or if you are like me, I'm projecting into the future, imagining future scenarios, and almost trying to plan for it. Right? So attention away from thinking, away from past and future or fantasies, coming back to sensing. Sensing what? What are we sensing? What is happening in this very moment? For example, in this moment when I'm meditating, the sound, just bodily sensations, nothing terribly exciting, nothing terribly provocative happening in this moment. And in so doing, hope to bring them together. Not see them as opposing, bring them together. Also recognize that different moments, a different occasion, one or the other dominates. One another is where our attention is preoccupied with. And through such an inquiry, we may come to understand that a lot of time, not all the time, but a lot of time our emotional reactions are not about what is happening in this moment. It's about the past, about the future, about something that we have dreamt up or imagined. And we are reacting to all those things and events. And in so doing, we are one or more steps away from the reality of this moment. And the sort of idea is, what happens if I'm able to invite my attention to come back to this moment and seeing my problems or seeing the issues from the perspective of just this moment? Will things look differently? Will I respond differently? Will I be able to come up with a different emotional response? Right? So these are some of the ideas I would invite you to explore a little bit while we do this meditation on mindfulness, and simply, in a nutshell, applying two different labels, becoming acquainted with these different kind of conscious activities of our own mind. Okay, so I invite you to take a few moments and find a suitable meditation posture to settle your body in, and I'll guide you in this probably 25 minutes of meditation. Yeah. So I start by ringing the bell to signal the start of the beginning of this meditation session. So let's allow our body to find its way to settle into the meditation posture we have adopted, taking care that in whichever posture we are using, that we allow the back, the spine to be as comfortable as it can be. Upright if you are sitting on a chair, sitting on the floor, or straight if you are lying down on the back in the supine position. Make sure you are lying on a firm support like the floor or bed. Rest your hands and arms in such a way that they are supported. Don't have to sort of tense up the muscles of your arms or your shoulders to hold them up in any particular way. And feel free to close your eyes completely. You can also leave your eyes half open or fully open, depending on whichever you are used to or works best for you. I invite you to become aware in this posture of the different sensations coming through from beneath you, coming through the different points of contact between your body and your seat, your body and the ground. Allow the body to feel that it is resting on the support that is firm, stable, and solid. A support that provides with and keep the body in balance and safety. And once that message is able to get through to our body, maybe to our brain, we can encourage the body to begin an automatic process of loosening up, of unwinding, of gradually in its own time to release some of those unnecessary tightness, tensions, and contractions in the different parts of the body, so that it can gradually settle down comfortably into this posture. So that's the first step of acquiring a seat for our body in meditation. Next, we are going to take some time just to help body and mind to settle down, to shift gears, to put aside things that might be preoccupying them from earlier on, so that they can really come back and be present here and now in this meditation. We do that by inviting our attention to return and to be in touch with the sensations in the body, starting at the crown. So see if you can, with a light touch, become aware of the sensations at the crown. Allow those sensations to come into your awareness, if there are any. Could be sensations of tingling, a slight feeling of pressure, could be warmth or coolness, and could very well be nothing at all, which is perfectly fine. Notice, sensing the sensations at the crown. Allow attention to flow downwards, almost like it is water flowing downwards, first to the front, into the face. Imagine we become aware of sensations at our own face. Are you tensing up any of your facial muscles? And if you notice any tensions or tightness in the face, see if you can make a gentle, conscious effort to release some of those tensions. See if you can let in a feeling of softness, of ease and comfort into your own face. Moving downwards, become aware of sensations at the neck, at the throat, without much effort, without trying hard. And then continue at your own pace into the shoulders so that you are aware of the sensations at both shoulders. Neck and shoulders are some of the areas where we most commonly store tensions and tightness. So if you do recognize unpleasant sensations here at the neck, at the shoulders, is it possible for you to acknowledge them as such? And just let them be. Allow the body some time to adjust, to find its way, to release more and more of these tensions and contractions. Moving downwards, allow our attention to travel down both arms at the same time so that we are in touch with the sensations in both arms, starting at the starting at the upper arms, reaching the elbows. Maybe you can notice subtle sensations at the elbows, into the forearms, and finally into both hands, fingers. And as we awaken the sensations in both arms, see if we can give permission and just allow the weight of both arms to rest comfortably on their support. Then we return our attention to the chest. Throughout the meditation, we find that we have to keep coming back to wherever it is we are attending to. Notice sensations at the chest, sensations related to the movements of the chest as we breathe in and out. Maybe we can even sense the beating of the heart. We allow attention to continue downwards into the abdomen. Notice, detect, be aware of sensations at the abdomen. Not only at the skin or in the muscles, but also deep down in the various organs. And not only are we aware of sensations from the front of the body, we must also not neglect the back. So see if you can be aware of sensations at the back, at the upper back, the middle back, and the lower back. Let attention gather in the pelvis so that we are aware of sensations here, Feel the weight of the pelvis resting on your support. And see if you can give permission, allow the pelvis to rest comfortably on its support. We allow attention to continue down both legs at the same time. So that we are aware of sensations in the upper legs, the knees, down towards the ankles, eventually into both feet. Feel or be aware of the weight of both legs resting on their support. And see if we can give permission and surrender that weight to gravity. So rest our body in the posture, allow it to continue to settle down, to unwind, to release unneeded, unnecessary tensions. Rest our attention, our mind here and now, with the body, sensing the changing sensations within the body, including the breath. And also see if we can sense or listen to the sounds in our surrounding. If you have eyes open, you can even sense the various visual objects in the field of your vision. When attention is here and now, preoccupied with our physical senses, with our eyes, our ears, with our body, could be with the nose and tongue, if we are eating or smelling something. Otherwise, we can stick to sounds, bodily sensations, and maybe visual objects. When attention is here, engaging with the senses, in our mind we can recognize it as such and acknowledge it. Apply the labor, sensing. Sensing the sounds, bodily sensations, the breath, tensing, relaxing of the body, the presence or absence of certain feelings. Sensing. Before we know it, we find our attention drawn away from this moment, drawn into thoughts in the form of words or images. Could be about memories, could have something to do with our imagination, imagining the future or other kind of scenarios. Can we recognize that, acknowledge it, apply the labor, thinking? If something intrigues you, you can even inquire with the power of your attention. Look closer, pay more attention to the thoughts, to their contents, to other things that arise alongside those thoughts. At any point of time, you're most welcome to invite your attention to come back here and now, to come back to sensing. Coming back to this moment, allowing ourselves to be mindful, noticing what is happening, thinking or sensing, without rejecting any one of them. See if we can inquire and get to know the different modes of our mind, the different activities of ourselves, thinking or sensing. Coming back to this moment, labeling your attention, whether it is involved in thinking or sensing. Pay closer attention. Be aware of the contents of your thoughts. What are you going on and on about in thinking? Without attachment, without aversion, simply apply mindful awareness to get to know the different thinking habits of yourself. And when you're done with that, invite your attention, return to this moment, reconnect with your physical senses, come back to sensing. Applying mindful awareness to what is happening within ourselves, thinking or sensing. Maybe there are occasions where you notice both of them are happening at the same time. Part of the energy of attention is with thinking, while the other part of the energy of your attention is with sensing. Thinking and sensing are not opposite activities. They are different, but they are related to one another. They can complement one another. If you notice that, see if you can label both of them at the same time together, thinking and sensing. So coming back to this moment, to here and now, to the present moment, you may observe, if not in this session, in other sessions, when strong emotions arise, you'll find that emotions are actually made up of both components, thinking and sensing. Thoughts arise one after another, triggered by whatever events or incidents. Powerful thoughts that draw our attention in, that hold our attention with them as we spin up the different stories, scenarios, narratives. And alongside with those thoughts, the body responds, tensing, breathing changes. In those moments when we become aware, when we recognize what is happening, when we can acknowledge that particular emotion response, we can invite our attention to simply come back to this very moment, come back to here and now, reconnect with our physical senses, come back to sensing. Coming back to this moment, coming back to sensing. Each time we invite our attention to return here and now, to sensing, we are nurturing a different habits of our mind. We are nurturing mindfulness that help to keep our attention connected with reality, the reality of this moment, which is the only reality we ever have, and try to align all our different reactions and responses so that they are aligned with reality itself, so that we are able to respond to what is actually happening here and less involved in our memories, our fantasies, our imagination. So come back to this moment, come back to sensing. So there's a meditation on mindfulness, mainly focusing on learning how to apply the two labors of sensing and thinking, and with the help of the labors to sort of become more aware, more mindful of the different mental activities. Of course, the two mental activities will be our awareness, attention, preoccupied or related to the physical senses, and then our attention involved with thinking, thoughts. Of course, not all thoughts are necessarily emotional thoughts, not necessarily accompanied by certain emotional responses, especially in a meditation session like this where maybe nothing is triggering those strong emotions, but it's a good place to start and to cultivate this quality of mindfulness. So much so that on occasion when we really feel ourselves being disturbed or stirred up, emotions are arising, we can apply similar technique to those occasions. We can really get to see in our own experience how an emotional response is actually made up of all these different conditions and components. Bulk of it is thinking about that particular event, which might be unfolding in this moment, or could be quite often has already happened. Or if you are like me, I might project into the future and start to consider future scenarios and reacting to them. So thinking is a strong component of emotional responses. And likewise, there is another component of it is sensing, noticing what is going on within the body, noticing what are the different feelings, feelings of happiness, unhappiness, sadness, fear that's coming along. And by learning to differentiate these two, and learning also to nurture attention connected with sensing, it means attention to present moment, here and now, we are applying mindfulness as a way to work with our emotional responses, our different emotions, and learning to kind of help the mind to stay connected with the actual reality and not be so carried away by the power of our imaginations, by our memories, by our thinking, so that our emotions are appropriate response or reaction to what is actually happening, as opposed to what we fantasize or what we project or what we remembered. So this is an important way mindfulness can really help us to work with our emotions. Okay, so as for the other major practice that I introduced in this series, which is cultivating the 4 sublime abidings of the heart, or something called 4 immeasurables. These are referring to the qualities of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and learning to use our attention to nurture these very natural qualities of our own heart. These are beautiful qualities of the human heart, that when we are able to get in touch with them, able to express them in our behavior, in our interactions with others, and also in our relationship with ourselves, even with the different aspects of ourselves, the different habits of ourselves. There are wonderful ways to help us to build that relationship, to enable us to have that kind of interactions, and then to learn from those interactions and learn how to respond differently. So they are wonderful, excellent alternative to other kind of habits of our mind: attachment, clinging, grasping, aversion, rejection, anger, hatred, and as well as many others. For example, more painful one like feeling guilt and shame about oneself or certain aspects of ourselves. Why not invest some energy of our attention to nurture something far more wholesome, far more helpful responses to to different things we encounter in our life. So I have sort of touched on all 4 qualities over the past weeks. My method, as you have attended a few of these sessions will know, I tend to make use of simple phrases as a support for attention for the mind, and I'm nurturing this quality in meditation, right? Which you might find kind of a bit strange, instead of talking about how we apply them in our daily life or how we apply them in our relationship with others. I keep drawing people's attention to, doing it in a way in solitude, in isolation, like what we are now, or we are coming out of self-isolation, in the context of meditation. Of course, we can have chance to practice these qualities or try to express them in our day-to-day interactions with other people, with family, with friends, with colleagues, or wherever it is we encounter. Those are important occasions. But I also think that it's just as valuable to take some time out on our own and to devote a short meditation to nurturing these qualities, to first get in touch with these qualities in our heart, find a way to somehow connect to them, find a way that somehow we are able consciously to invite them to come forth, and to, in the safety of our meditation, to learn to apply these different qualities, apply them in relation to the different people in our life, the different scenario, some of which might be difficult for us because we are more used to a different way of reacting to the person, a different way of handling those situations. So this is like a rehearsal, learning how to and finding our way around and figuring out for ourselves, whether is this helpful or not, is this appropriate or not. So meditation offers an excellent opportunity, to get in touch with these qualities, to nurture them, to invite them forth, and to try them out, so to speak. Try out how it is like to manifest them or express them. How do I feel? Does it really work? Is it helpful? And what we do in meditation doesn't only stay in meditation, will also spill out into our daily life, into our interaction with others. So, and also meditation provides a simplified environment, whereas in real life, often we can't really. It's not that simple when we are with somebody. We are often busy with something or trying to get certain things done, or there are tons of other things that are, that require our attention. And in the heat of the moment, it's really hard to remember, oh, I'm supposed to be kind, I'm trying to be compassionate. You may find the opposite happening. We get short-tempered, we get irritated, we get frustrated, we fall back on old habits. Yeah. So just as a reminder, a summary, for example, with loving kindness, I have each one of them have my stock phrases. I thought just to repeat them, say a few things about them. With loving kindness, I tend to repeat 4 lines. I always say, in relation to oneself, may I live in safety, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease. And likewise, I repeat similar phrases to others. May you live in safety, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. I find this really helpful to do it for both the group of people that I love, that I care about. By saying that, by bringing them to mind and saying these words towards them, it helps to secure or solidify, stabilize that connection I have with them, a heartfelt connection. And with people that I have problem with in my daily life, even by saying these phrases to them, it sort of challenged myself to see if I can find a different way of seeing these people, to relate to them, try to relate to them from the better side of myself, from the side of kindness. Might be difficult, might be challenging, might not actually work, but at least we can try. Wishing someone that might have really pissed you off, really pushing your buttons, and even if I don't necessarily feel in that moment of practicing, I don't feel particularly loving or kind, still is a good exercise to say, to wish, may you live in safety, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. Okay, so that is loving kindness. Compassion, with compassion I would say, may I be free from pain and sorrow, may I find healing, may I find peace. So I choose phrases and words that are meaningful for myself, that somehow speaks to my heart and correspond to how I feel about things, about people, or what I yearn for or wish for. And you may find that in your case, it will work differently. What is meaningful for me may not be meaningful for you. What is important to me may not be important to you. And therefore, it's most important to try to customize the phrases to our own situation, or even to specific instances. Sometimes words change by themselves also. So I really encourage people to personalize those phrases, make it such that it is truly meaningful to yourself. And by saying it in meditation, you are in one way expressing that feeling, that quality of the mind, of compassion. So compassion requires us to be open to pain and sorrow. Because without encountering the unpleasant aspects of life, how can we find a compassionate response? How can we find compassion if at all times we are simply feeling pleasant, uplifted, happy. Compassion requires us to share a little bit, to be aware at least of another's suffering, so as to open the heart, so as we can respond from a compassionate place. And the third quality is of joy, or sometimes we can call it rejoicing, or sometimes I prefer the term appreciative joy. There's a sense of appreciation as we feel uplifted and feel joyful. And I would say, may my happiness continue, may my good fortune not diminish, which may or may not be appropriate for other people, but I quite like it after all these years. It's also a way of acknowledging the happiness and good fortune that has come my way, that I'm so, in a way, so lucky to have those moments, to have those resources, and to appreciate them, to feel happy about them, to feel happy that I have had them, or I'm still enjoying them, and to not take them for granted. Right? And the last, probably the easiest to misunderstand, is equanimity. And here, the phrase I use is a very typical Buddhist phrase. It points to the Buddhist teaching of karma. In particular, not the karma that look back into the past and try to explain this and that, but the karma that invite us to look forward and to remind us that our choices, our actions in this moment are powerful in shaping our future. In fact, through making different choices, through acting in different ways, we are creating our own future. The future could be the next moment, could be short term, could be long term, but that is how powerful our actions can be. And we are invited in this verse on equanimity to reflect, to be reminded of the power of actions. Yeah. So in relation to equanimity, I would say we are the owners of our actions. My happiness and unhappiness depend on my actions and not merely on my wishes for myself. For me, this phrase is personally very meaningful. In times of difficulties, in times of feeling upset or grumbling, complaining about things that I dislike or I'm unhappy about, it reminds me that, okay, after all the complaints, after all the grumbling, it all boils down to, so what am I going to do now? What are my choices? What are the type of actions I want to create that will bring about a different future for myself? Still, the responsibility returned to me in this moment. What is it that I want to do? What can I change for those things that I am capable of changing? Of course, not all things can be changed by me. I'm not that powerful. But nonetheless, at any point of time, there is always something I can do about it. If not externally, internally, within myself. Even with the power in terms of my own attention. So I would say to myself, we are the owners of our actions. My happiness and unhappiness depend on my actions, not merely on my wishes for myself. It is also quite kind of tricky to apply it to other people, to not only to help us find that equanimous state of mind in our relationship with others. So we will say, we are the owners of our actions. Your happiness and unhappiness depend on your actions and not merely on my wishes for you. And this one I think we need to reflect a little bit, because there are different ways of understanding, interpreting, and it changes according to the scenarios, the situations, the people involved. But it's, as the phrases go, it's always an invitation for us to think a bit differently, to step out of our old habitual reactions, to explore other qualities we also have within ourselves, other attitudes, other way of responding that we may not be so used to, but maybe just as beneficial or even more beneficial and powerful and appropriate. And that is what we are trying to do with nurturing these four sublime qualities of the heart. So to conclude this session, I invite you to join with me for the last few minutes to spend just a short time, cultivating loving kindness. And we're going to first offer the phrases of loving kindness to ourselves, and then turning our attention beyond ourselves, offer it first to people closest to us. And finally, we spend just a little bit of time and offering the phrases to all sentient beings, all living beings, just as a thought, sending a positive thought beyond ourselves. Okay, so let's give it a try. So let's start by setting our body in a comfortable posture. And we can begin with a few deep breaths. Just breathe in and out deeply for a few times. And on an out breath, we remind ourselves to release. We allow the breath to settle back to its natural rhythm. Don't have to control the breath in any particular way. And we rest our attention on the different breath sensations throughout the body, allowing ourselves to fully experience the in-breath and the out-breath. Each time we become aware of an out-breath, see if we can make use of this as an opportunity to deepen the sense of release. Almost as if each time we breathe out, not only are we releasing the carbon dioxide or the stale air in our lungs, we are also releasing other things that are unnecessary, unhelpful to the meditation. We are giving permission for the body to unwind, to release some strongly held tensions and tightness. We are giving permission to our mind to put aside thoughts or images, memories that are not related to the meditation. We are allowing them to flow away with the breath. A good place to begin is actually with our face, where we do tend to unconsciously tighten some of the muscles of the face. As we become aware of sensations at the face, if you notice that you have unconsciously tightened the muscles, maybe of the forehead, or muscles of the jaw, could be muscles around the eyes. As we breathe out, see if we can give permission, allow the face to soften, to release some of these tensions and tightness, and to welcome in a feeling of ease, comfort, and relaxation into the face. And then we turn our attention to the phrases of loving kindness, our own particular phrases. And slowly, mindfully, we repeat the words and direct them first towards ourselves. And see if we can, at least in terms of intention, be sincere in wishing ourselves to be well and happy. May I live in safety. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. May I live in safety. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Slowly and mindfully, we repeat our phrases of loving kindness, staying connected to the loving intention behind the words and offer them to ourselves. Not to worry if no particular feelings arise, we don't feel particularly loving or warm. We allow the words to do the work on our behalf and give our hearts time, plenty of time to respond in its own way at its own time. May I live in safety. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. And then, if you're ready, if you wish to, we can briefly turn our attention to the people closest to us. And I suggest, without spending too much time with each one of them, simply extend your attention to each of them in turn and very briefly offer with a few repetitions to each of your family, friends, loved ones, extending the phrases of loving kindness to them. May you live in safety. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. So feel free at your own pace to switch from one person to another. For each one of them, offer a few repetitions of the phrases of loving kindness, extending this quality of a loving heart to each of those who are closest to you. May you live in safety. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. And then finally, let's extend the scope of our attention and briefly, from the bottom of our heart, sincerely, we try to wish, may all sentient beings, may every living beings everywhere, may each of them, may all of us live in safety, be happy, be healthy, and live with ease. And we conclude with dedication. Dedicate all the positive momentum we have created over this session, dedicated towards the fulfillment of our own higher aspirations, that anything good or positive that come out of these sessions, may they somehow stay with us, may they linger in our body and mind, so that they can continue to benefit us. Okay, thank you very much for your attention over this series of working with emotions. I hope we have covered something that might be helpful or beneficial, and I hope you will, in your own way, at your own time, revisit some of these ideas and try them out in your meditation and see whether they are useful or not. So thank you very much, and please take care and stay well, and hope to see you in the near future.